بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Dear friends, welcome to Idea Foundation Forum. Today we will discuss the research topic Spirituality, Real Profile of the Man. Spirituality, Real Profile of the Man. We have been discussing that the man is a wonderful combination of spiritual being and material being. Despite his spiritual predominance, historically the man has been mostly captive of material preferences in his life. In the last few lectures, we identified 6 major reasons of the Muslims' decadence. If we minutely explore the seedling essence, the feeding essence, breeding essence that germinated these reasons, the man's forgetfulness of his great spiritual profile finds the most detrimental share in it. He lost his spiritual endowments that has raised him to the most enviable stature of ahsani taqweem. Then, pursuing material cravings, material desires of his self, he fell deep into the abyss of moral transgression and impiety. Asfala safilin. He forgot the worth of spiritual inspiration that had qualified him for assuming the status of Allah's vicegerent, his connectivity with the divine order, and a free personality capable of doing the wonders by employing limitless resources of the universe. He also ignored the fact that this material being would perish soon, and it would be spiritual being of the man, his personality, which would stand for accountability on the day of judgment, where his placement in the hereafter would be determined on the basis of his deeds in the worldly life. Thus, the real profile of the man is his spirituality that needs to be nourished, developed, promoted to seek affinity with the divine order and ensure a peaceful, progressive, and humane worldly life too. Let us discuss this theme in some more detail. Dear friends, the man was created from clay, earth, and then procreated from a drop of water. He was made of earthly elements to match his earthly needs, enabling him play the role of Allah's vicegerent on this earth. Though for his worldly life of this world, he was accomplished with the befitting physical faculties, yet inside his corporal body or physical being, he is all spiritual. His nature, the source of his life, his soul, and the chemistry that puts trillions of pieces into a living whole are all spiritual. The man's past is spiritual, and so is the future. The man usually loses his spirituality in the worldly charms, while the heart has been gifted as reflector of the divinity, rhythm of the nature, echo of the truth, and thus the mention of the nafs, the ego. What is mention? Castle, fortress, to protect nafs and the ego. Nafs or the ego. Allah, the most compassionate and merciful, has revealed faith and wisdom to the heart so that the man could regain his lost divine connectivity to nourish his spiritual personality. Comprehensive description of the essentiality why spiritual character was accorded to the man requires volumes of writings, volumes. However, in view of time constraints, we will make a very brief account of it. For detailed studies, I have given some Quranic references on the screen. Dear friends, we discussed in lecture 1 that the man's creation was completed in 3 phases as revealed in ayat 7 to 9 of Surah As-Sajda. In the pre-corporal phase, idea of creation was conceived by Allah. In the corporal stage, the man was given a material shape with clay. Finally, he was given a personality, a spiritual birth, distinct of physical birth, by breathing the spirit into him. Ayat 9 says, listen, Summa savvahu wa nafakha fihi min ruhihi wa ja'ala lakumus sam'a wal absara wal af'ida. Summa savvaha, then he fashioned him in due proportion, shape, body. It refers to the man's physical creation. Then, وَنَفَخَ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِهِ, and breathed into him of his spirit. His spirit, Allah's spirit. That refers to his spiritual being. Now note the words very carefully. Of his spirit. What does it mean? It means the spirit breathed into the man belongs to the divine spirit. Thus, it is not a creation. Rather, it belongs to his divinity, Allah's divinity. Now, look at changing status of the man. Dear friends, look at changing status of the man. Changing status. Before induction of the spirit, the man was addressed as he. In the third person, considering not worthy of direct address. While after the spiritual birth, after induction of spirit in the human being, Allah addressed him in the second person, you. وَجَعَلَ لَكُمْ, I gave you, which indicates that personality of the man was completed with induction of the soul. Then to make his personality operational, man's personality operational in the material world, Allah gave him faculties of observation, senses referred to by the word hearing, as-sam'a. Then the mental faculty was given, which was referred to by the word seeing, our eyes, wal absara. The heart is referred to as the mansion of nafs, the soul, and a link with spirit, ruh. Distinction between physical birth and spiritual birth gets further clarity when ayat 14 of Surah Al-Mu'minun calls this infusion of the spirit in human corporal body as another birth in the words. Listen. Summa ansha'nahu khalqan akhara. Khalqan akhara. Then we develop him into another creation or yet another make. So, dear friends, the spirit belongs to Allah's divinity, as the Quran says, وَنَفَخَ فِيهِ مِن رُوحِهِ. It is Allah's amr, Allah's directing force. Thus it is neither creation like the man, nor it is captive of earthly time and space, and it is infinite, eternal in its character. The Quran describes its nature in ayat 85 of Surah Al-Isra. Listen. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. They ask, what is ruh? قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. Tell them, ruh is from Allah's amr. Allah, rather, amri Rabbi. وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْإِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Let me tell it in English translation. And they ask thee of the soul. Say, the soul proceeds from my Lord's amr, command, but of knowledge only a little to you is given. Allah calls the ruh, our spirit, as Amr Rabbi, since it had been developer of the divine order, means it had been living in the divine order. It is blessed with close intimacy to Allah, and it knows His nature, Allah's nature, and His character well. It knows the divine connections of the universe too. Thus, the awakened spirit, what is awakened? Conscious. Awakened spirit in the material body provides the man an opportunity to establish intimate relation with his Creator in this worldly life. Now just imagine worth of the spiritual connectivity the man is blessed with, and unfortunately, and his contemptuous fall to the worldly, short-lived and deceitful charms, bearing dreadful consequences on the day of judgment. Dear friends, spirituality is an indispensable factor, integral factor, essential factor of the man's personality as he is created on Allah's nature. This undeniable reality is revealed in ayat 30 of Surah Ar-Rum in the words, فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهِ. adhere, adhere to the fitrah of Allah, nature, upon which He has created all people. The man was adorned, decorated with spiritual endowments so that his personality could be carved into a mold, designed into a shape most befitting for adherence to Allah's grand nature, His great attributes, and the laws of nature. Allah envisioned, thought, personality of the man out of His great love and to manifest His divine attributes. The divine attributes have been called the hidden treasures of Allah's divinity. Allah created the man to manifest, to show His being as revealed in a Hadith Qudsi in a very expressive manner. Listen. كنت كنزا مخفيا فأحببت أن أعرف فخلقت الخلق لكي أعرف. Allah says, I was a hidden treasure, and I wished to be known. So I created a creation, the mankind, then made myself known to them, and they recognized me. Thus, for accomplishment of Allah's grand intention, His nature must be manifested in our personality and conducts, which comes through by adopting Allah's attributes, as our great Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Takhlaqu bi ikhlaqillah." A heart devoted to His great attributes evolves a spiritual personality that manifests the divine traits of benevolence, justice, supreme wisdom, and spiritual insight. Ayat 30 of Surah Ar-Rum, we just mentioned, reveal the man's relation with the divine order. What is order? Divine system, Allah's divine organization. The man's nature is replica of the divine nature. All elements of the universe and the man are interconnected and operate within the divine order under the unitary laws of nature in view of ayat 5 to 9 of Surah Ar-Rahman shown on the screen. This interconnectivity of the man with the nature urges him, compels him to nurture, to develop his spiritual endowments, to strengthen his relevance within the divine order. For that, the Quran has directed the man, not advised, directed the man to look at the wonders of the universe, and inside of his self to access the treasures of divine wisdom and coherence with nature to reach the truth as revealed in Surah Fussilat and Surah Dhariyat shown on the screen. This philosophy is further explained in a hadith. Please listen. What a beautiful composition of expressive words. فَقَدْ عَرَفَ نَفْسَهِ فَقَدْ عَرَفَ نَفْسَهِ فَقَدْ عَرَفَ رَبَّهُ. Whoever knows himself, knows his God. So, dear friends, scope of our spiritual personality, our divine connectivity depends on the strength of our faith, spirited by the principles of Ihsan and Ikhlas. What is Ihsan? Ihsan is best explained in a Hadith Qudsi in the words, listen, to worship Allah as though you see Him, you see Allah. And if you cannot see Him, then indeed He sees you. This is Ihsan. Devotion to Allah. And what is Ikhlas? Ikhlas is preferred dedication, preferred love to Allah, and worshipping Him with Ihsan. The apex of Ihsan and Ikhlas is reached when the human soul feels itself lost in the ocean of Allah's divinity. The man reaches a stage of sublimity where his will is submerged into the will of Allah, as Hadith Qudsi describes this situation in the words. Allah says, when I love him, I love my servant, I love the man, I am his hearing with which he hears, his seeing with which he sees, his hand with which he strikes, and his foot with which he walks. Such merging of the wills. What is merging of the wills? Will of the man and will of God. Such merging of the wills was observed in the Battle of Badr, as revealed in Ayat 17 of Surah Al-Anfal, as shown on the screen. This marathon venture, long-term endeavor, begins with cleanliness of our inner self. What is cleanliness of our inner self? In Islamic terminology, it is called tazkiyah-e-nafs. Then, knowledge, intellect, and wisdom open the doors of the consciousness of Allah and His great mysteries, strengthen the faith, and inspire the heart with greater divine connectivity and love for Allah. Intensity of love with Allah, or ishq ilahiya, determines the preparedness, readiness to enter the great mansions of Allah's divinity. For deeper understanding of this subject, some Qur'anic references are shown on the screen. Please have a look. Dear friends, due to his material outfit, material body, the man is prone, tempted to earthly traits of materialism, self-love, and self-interest, which by inculcating negative emotions and attitudes distance him away from his desired positive role of faith in the sovereignty of Allah, love, benevolence, justice, growth, and common good for the humanity. While for a spiritual personality, on the other hand, for a spiritual personality, worldly life is mere a short span for preparing his profile worthy of higher reward in the hereafter, by pursuing the ways of faithfulness, propriety, and well being of the humanity. Such personalities are adorned, decorated with divine wisdom and awakened heart. Awakened heart, conscious heart in this world too, as revealed in Ayat 32 of Surah Al-Hajj. ذَلِكَ وَمَنْ يُعَزِّمْ شُعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. That is what one should remember. And if one observes the sanctity of the symbols of Allah, mysteries of Allah, then such things emanate, comes out from the piety of the hearts. In psychophysiological terms, the consequences of life devoid of faith, empty of faith, or loss of spiritual connectivity breed negative emotions, causing disorder in the higher level brain centers, which adversely affect the functioning of virtually all psychophysiological processes, including cognitive, hormonal, and immune systems. Such perverted life also deprives the personality of its spiritual potentials. The man, despite having huge worldly possessions, feels emptiness, hollowness. Loss of spiritual connectivity of the man carries repercussions even much beyond his worldly life. Beyond his worldly life. The spiritual connectivity realized in this life, in fact, determines reward of the hereafter too. The man's soul comes with him at birth as his guide and guardian, pushing him for spiritual connectivity through strong faith, ibadat, and good deeds. Besides preparing the performance card of the man with reference to his assigned portfolio, the soul nourishes, the soul develops, promotes as the man pursues its guidance. The soul pleases as the man pursues its guidance. It wanes, weakens when he persistently demeans it, corrupts it. This is the reason when the man ignores the call of his soul, even heaps of his worldly wealth fail to give him solace of the heart and peace of mind, and hollowness of his self looks for something real missing in life. So, listening to the call of the soul is real success in this world and salvation in the hereafter. There are several verses of the Quran that reveal the value of faith, devotion, and ibadat for enriching, for improving the spiritual profile. However, I may share with you Ayat 22 of Surah Az-Zumar, wherein Allah has promised His divine affinity, divine closeness, divine affinity, and reward to a spiritually awakened personality, which is the real profile of the man, which is the real asset of the man. The ayat says, أَفَمَنْ شَرَحَ اللَّهُ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ فَهُوَ عَلَى نُورٍ مِّن رَبِّهِ. What about the one whose heart God has opened in devotion to Him, so that he walks in light from his Lord. Just imagine the honor. So, dear friends, as we discussed in lecture number 91, the soul or nafs emerges on the earth with the breathing of spirit into the physical body of the man. It is eternal in its nature, and it is neither captive of spatio-temporal order of the earth, nor it is creation like the man. It stays with the man for a short span of his worldly life. When he dies, when he dies, his soul or the spiritual being departs for the next destination, while his material body turns into heap of dust. It is his personality attached to the soul, developed during its life activity in the world, which will be subjected to accountability on the day of judgment, and will be given a new birth and a new body in the hereafter. The misconceptions raised by the disbelievers that when they would have become dust after death, how could they be resurrected? What is resurrected? How they will be given a new birth? Are all based on their ignorance. The reality of the man is his soul and personality, which remain intact with its creator after bodily death of the man. Now it is simple to understand. Allah, who had made an earthly body for the soul in the first instance, nothing can hinder him from making another home for it, for the soul, for the personality, from the same or from some other substances, other materials. Allah knows well what has been lost in the earth and what has been protected, as revealed in Ayat 4 of Surah Kaf and Ayat 19 of Surah Ar-Rum shown on the screen. So, dear friends, with this we conclude our discussion here. These programs are recorded both in Urdu and English. Their videos can be watched on ideafoundation.com.pk website or its YouTube channel and Facebook. Their written versions are also available on the Idea Foundation's website. Please note code number of this program, Idea 1B R31 or lecture number 139. All friends are requested to subscribe the Foundation's YouTube web channel for the benefit of this noble cause. Thank you, friends, for participation. Allah Hafiz.